This football game is from 1994. And no, you're not seeing things.
Look at that hit. There was 10 guys in on that tackle.
This is John Madden Football for the 3DO. It might look like a PlayStation game. But if you play it, you'll realize that this is just another port of Madden 93.
Okay, you just have things going, and then boom, you give them an interception, and now your defense has to come out there in the field.
Now, don't get me wrong, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be a port of Madden 1993. I mean, Madden 93 really is a great game. It's an all-time classic. But John Madden Football and the 3DO is a pretty interesting experience. In fact, the 3DO in general is an interesting system on its own. So it's time for a little history lesson. So this is Trip Hawkins. It's a name you might remember. He's the guy who originally signed John Madden to his company Electronic Arts back in the 1980s. Now, the original John Madden Football game for the Apple II came out in 1988, which was about 4 years after that contract was signed. Of course, the game didn't really get a lot of notoriety or attention until the Sega Genesis version came out in December 1990. Now, the 3DO was designed to be a high-end, ultra-powerful video game system, and this is at a time when the technology was changing really rapidly, so you know what that means. Back when this was released in 1993, the buzzword of the day was multimedia, and the 3DO fit right into that environment. It promised to be more than just another video game system. Now, the big selling point behind the 3DO was its CD-ROM technology, which was cutting edge at the time. But look here, the 3DO was retailing in Missouri, which is where this newspaper is from, for $700 in November 1993, which is over twice as much as the Sega CD. And like the Atari Jaguar, Sega CD, CDI, and TurboGrafx, the 3DO was hurt in the end by its extremely weak library of games. Now, this is a trend that you'll notice if you spend a lot of time studying video game history. There's a balance that each one of these companies has to strike between being affordable and between having decent technology. And believe it or not, having the technology doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get an advantage. So if you look at this Japan-only Sailor Moon S game, you'll notice that it's fast and it looks nice. But are these graphics really nice enough to justify that crazy price? So for comparison, this is Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super NES. Don't you think that this looks better than Sailor Moon S? Maybe it's not as nice as the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade game, sure. But games like this just don't look right for a $700 video game system. Now, this is the same problem that all of the high-end video game systems had back in the mid-1990s. Now, I probably wasn't growing up in like the right neighborhood since I didn't know anybody who had a Neo Geo or CDI or a 3DO or an Atari Jaguar or any of those cutting-edge expensive systems. And I should point out that every one of those systems went completely obsolete as soon as the PlayStation came out in late 1995 for a lot cheaper. Deep down inside though, back in sort of like 93, 94, we all knew that the 16-bit video game systems were the best of the bunch because the games for those systems were simply better. Anyway, John Madden Football might have come out in 1994, but it's really Madden 93. The cinematic portions of this game are nice. Well, mostly, these John Madden cutscenes really suck. Now, the graphics look impressive at first glance. However, when you play it, you'll realize it's just Madden 93 with some 3D rendered sprites. And even then, the sprites don't really look very good.
Hey, look at him swarm that guy.
Now, the worst part of all about John Madden Football in the 3DO is that it has all of the problems of Madden 93. In fact, the bad parts of Madden 93 are even worse in this game, believe it or not. For instance, you've still got the passing windows, except they're done worse than ever before. So in Madden 93, these windows get in your way and lead to all sorts of bizarre outcomes. In the 3DO game, you actually lose time because your quarterback has to close the window, pose, and then throw. I had some issues getting used to switching to the receiver right away, which is one of the reasons why I had so many incomplete passes. However, if you switch on time, you will score a touchdown easily. Now that's the other issue with this game. It's simply too easy. I know that might sound strange, but seriously, it's way too easy. Since the computer is almost always looking past, you can run the ball at will. Once you get the hang of it, it's easy to run the ball straight through the defense. It doesn't always work, sure, but it works really well when the computer is looking past. Now, there is one nice thing about this version as I started looking closer. It seems that the blocking was at least somewhat improved. I still don't see guys actually blocking, but at least in this game you can see the holes emerge. However, runs up the middle usually result in a graphical mess since everybody sort of lays on the ground all at the same time. But, unlike the 16-bit Madden games, your players can actually move quickly, which makes actually running these plays feel good. And then you get all of these strange things that just sort of happen. Now, the 3DO was nice because the system was fast, but sometimes the system was so fast that you didn't know what just happened. I swear, sometimes I intercept the ball without knowing what happened.
There's nothing that can change the momentum.
And the game seems to love fumbles for some strange reason. It's mostly a game of big plays and crazy turnovers.
One thing that happens after an interception, the offense tends to lose confidence.
The 3D perspective is also a bit deceiving since sometimes you'll get what you think is a big run only to discover that you didn't go so far. But hey, I mean, at least the cutscenes are good. Well, for the most part, except for the scenes with John Madden sort of looking at you and saying, "It's time for kickoff." The referee cutscenes here are very well done and professional. Compare those to the Duo Turbo CD version, which is laughable. And of course, the TurboGrafx CD version has graphics that look really silly in comparison. But as far as gameplay is concerned, the TurboGrafx version is actually better. The 3DO game might have impressive graphics for its time, but the play control just isn't that good. Now, I think the biggest disappointment of this game, especially at the time, was the fact that it used the Madden 93 engine. By the time this came out in May 1994, Madden 93 was really old news. And remember, Madden 94 is where they got rid of things like that stupid passing window. Sure, Madden 93 was an all-time classic. Championship Edition was even better, of course. The TurboGrafx version is an extremely good version of the game. I strongly recommend it. And then you've got games like Mutant League Football, which is also based on the Madden 93 engine. The same is true of Bill Walsh College Football. Now, the 3DO version of Madden is okay, but it's not really as impressive as it should have been. There's no real regular season, for example. You can play with historic teams, but they are all the same standard Madden 93 list of historic teams. There are really no surprises here aside from the pseudo 3D graphics.
That was great defense at the line of scrimmage.
Timeout.
I mean, even complete in box, this game really isn't that rare or expensive. It's one of the more common games on the system. Anyway, that's kind of an accurate description overall of this game. It feels really common and really generic. It's not a great and memorable version of John Madden Football, which is probably what it should have been. That's really the biggest complaint about this game that I have. Now, it's not a bad game. It's actually more fun, I think, than Madden 93 because it moves faster. You don't have as much time sitting around waiting for like personnel to change and stuff. But because of the power of the 3DO, because of its graphical capabilities, I was really expecting something better. Now, you also have to keep in mind that Trip Hawkins was the founder of 3DO and was the same guy who signed John Madden in the first place for Electronic Arts. I expected something more than just sort of like a generic rehash of a game that was already old. Anyway, this game is an interesting historical note for sure, but the truth is that the 16-bit versions of Madden 94 are strictly better, no doubt about it.